Hey everybody, we're going to take a look at how to convert a black and white photo to color. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Everybody, welcome back to my channel. I got a email from, it was requested not to use the last name, so it's going to be Terry K. And he was asking me what I thought about the feature that's in Photoshop about converting black and white to color. If you remember a few weeks ago, we looked at one technique by using channels to convert color to black and white. So now we're going to go the opposite way. Now, I really have never done this before or had to do it before for myself or a client. But there is a feature in Photoshop that's fairly new, and there are some problems with it. In other words, it's not perfect. A lot of times it just doesn't do that great of a job. It might do 80, 90% of the work for you, and then you got to go in there and clean it up a bit. So that's what he was frustrated with, because he was finding he wasn't getting 100%, and he didn't know what to do after that. So I'm going to share some ideas and thoughts that we can do in Photoshop using this feature. So let's open up in Photoshop here a black and white image. Actually, I'm going to work on a couple of them for you, because each one's going to have a slightly different problem that we need to solve. So with this one here, if you go to Filter drop-down menu and choose something called Neural Filters, a big dialog box should open up, and you'll see a listing of different neural filters. We're going to come down here about halfway down where it says Colorize, and you have to turn this feature on. So I'm going to select the button to turn it on. And what I found was skin tones on this look really, really good. I see that there's some issues here at the hair. It's just putting the wrong color in there versus the color of the background. And how it knows what colors to use, I have no idea. How do I know that that was a light blue top or something, unless you had a reference photo? But if it's black and white, usually you don't have something that's in color. So it might be just taking a guess. I mean, maybe there is some way AI is detecting based on the shade of black and white or whatever, it's going to be that color. But if you notice over here, it didn't do that good of a job. It didn't fill in everything. And the problem with this filter, well, the good thing about the filter is it did a great job on the skin tones and stuff like that, and the hair looks pretty good. But the controls that we have here is really like saturation and these different colors, color artifacts, noise reduction. Well, I don't really need any noise reduction on this, and there's no color artifacts. Even, when I tried to move this to the right, I mean, I don't really see anything that happens. And this is just shifting all the colors. There's no control. In other words, I can't control what's happening on her top right there. So I'm going to just choose New Layer, which is your default setting down here. And I'm just going to click on OK, and actually creates, again, a new layer for us. And there's my before and after. Well, I like to touch this up and fix this. So there's probably different ways of doing this. The way I'm going to approach doing this, and always remember that there isn't usually a single way of doing things in Photoshop. The big joke that we've heard for years is, how many Photoshop people does it take to change a light bulb? Typical answer could be 4. And that is 1 to change the light bulb, and the other 3 to stand around and give 3 different ways of doing the same thing. So the way I would approach this one is I would actually paint in some color, but if I add a new layer right here in our layers dialog box, what I don't want to do is when I grab the paintbrush, so B for brush, and I don't want to paint in 100%, I'm going to go about 40%. So I'm going to change that up here where it says opacity. I'm going to make that 40%. Make sure it's a soft edge brush right there for me. And if I go in there and hold the Alt key down and I sample the color on her blouse right there, if I go in there and start painting with that, you're going to see that it doesn't really look natural at all when I'm doing this. So I'm going to undo that. So Control Z, Command Z on a Mac. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the blending mode to color on that blank layer. So now when I grab the paintbrush and I paint in this area, it actually is like translucent. I'm adding the color, and I would zoom in here really close. I'm just trying to teach you the concept here. And I'm just filling in the areas where we're missing some color. And again, let me get in here. I'll just do a little bit more. Now, even the background by her hair on the left side doesn't look right. So if I just carefully go in there, and because it's more of a translucent with that color only, and I'm doing this at about 40%, I can sort of fake my way through that. So it looks like you're seeing that original blue color in the background. So it looks pretty good right there. So there's my before, after, before, after. And again, I would maybe get in there and do a better job, but this is what the painting looks like on that layer. And remember, the key thing, it's in color blending mode. That's the big deal right there. Because again, if I change it to normal, you're going to get that kind of look. So we'll go back to color right there. Now, what if I wanted to change that? Maybe I found a reference image of her or something like that, and it happened to be shot in color, and it turned out that wasn't exactly the color of that blouse. Well, what I'm going to do is select these two images together, Control E or Command E on a Mac, and that's just consolidating down to a single layer right there. So again, there's my before, after, before, after. And there's different ways of doing what I'm going to share with you right now. I'm just going to, let's say, I'm going to grab my lasso tool as an example. Well, before I do that, I'm going to go over here to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk, and I'm going to choose hue and saturation. I just want you to see that if I go over here and I bump up the saturation a bit and I change the hue, this is affecting the entire image, and I don't want to do that. So let me get rid of that for right now. So we'll delete that. And what I'm going to do is grab the lasso tool, and I don't think I have to be that accurate here. I'm just going to go around here. And there's another way we can do this. I'll share that with you in a few minutes, but I'm just going to do a rough selection. And now when I add the hue and saturation, notice how it masks that out for me. And remember, when you're doing a mask, white reveals the information on that layer. So, and this is an adjustment layer called hue and saturation. The black conceals it. So if I go over here to, let's say, the drop-down menu, because I'm going to use these eyedroppers. I'll show you how to use this in a minute. I have to go choose a color. Any color, doesn't matter. It activates the eyedrop tool right there. And if I click on this color here, on her, it sampled that color, and you can see the information shown right here. Well, if I pull the saturation all the way down, that turns this to gray, and it shows me the area it's picked up. And if I felt I missed anything, I can grab the eyedropper here that has a plus by it, click on there, and click and drag over areas that I maybe missed. Okay, so did a good job, though, the first time. We're just going to go back with normal right there on the saturation. And now if I shift this around, we can see we can actually change the colors. But you see what happened to her skin is changing colors. So what I could have done was made a better selection. But maybe if I go over here on the mask and I feather that a bit, and if I just make a subtle change, go back here again, and when I change the color, that saturation really shows up the bad area on her skin. But again, I might pull that down and play with that a little bit. Possibly could have made a better selection. We'll pull that down a little bit, but not too bad. Not too bad right there. So a little bit better technique would be, let me just delete that. I'm going to go back and choose an Oreo cookie dipped in milk again, and I'm going to choose the same thing, hue and saturation. And what I would do in this example is I'd grab my paintbrush, B for brush, and I'll share a little trick for you. And that is, let's make sure that's at 100% opacity for the brush. So right now I see it's at 40. So that's all I have to do is tap 0 on my keyboard, and it'll automatically make the opacity over here 100%. And if I click in there and drag, I won't see anything. But if I do this, if I do the backward slash on my keyboard, and then I go over here and click and drag, this is showing me where I'm actually painting in the mask. So this way, and again, I would zoom in really close to get this accurate, but just to speed up some time on the technique, I'm just going to do that right there. And again, if I goofed up, went on her skin, X on the keyboard, now I'm painting back in white, and again, I would zoom in really close. But I would take my time to get in that area. To get in that area, got to paint that back in. So that might be, a little bit better of a mask on it. And then, of course, remember, white reveals, black conceals. So the black here is going to conceal my changes. In other words, if I do this, it's affecting the white area, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to click on the mask here, and I'm just going to do Control-I, Command-I on a Mac, and that just inverted that mask. So now there's the white on the bottom. I'll hit my backward forward slash just to get rid of the red, so we don't need to see that anymore. And then click back over here on the adjustment layer, and I might just bump up the saturation of this a tiny bit. And again, if I move the slider back and forth at the very top, you can see that I'm changing the color of the blouse and stuff. And again, if you want to bump up the saturation, it's all subjective. So a couple different ways of just fine tuning it. The key thing here is it gave me a good strong jump start, this feature. It did a great job on the skin, in my opinion. But again, I have to go in and adjust the clothing. Okay, so that's, put on us to modify that and change that. Okay, so let's close this out, not save that, and let's open up a different image. In this image, again, I'm going to go to Filter, come down to Neural Filters, and let that open up. And come down to Colorize again, and activate the button. And then I'm just going to click on OK for it to create a new layer. So not too bad on this one. And maybe the clothing doesn't really bother me, or the clothing piece on her headdress or whatever that is. We can go in there and add more saturation and shift things around by, again, just masking that area. But the skin tone might not be right. It doesn't look too bad. I think it's a little bit too light over here. So I would do this. I want to add another layer. And then again, this is something like she might be, fair skinned, but maybe you got a reference image of her later, and you're finding out that no, there's her skin tone is a little bit more deeper. So I'm going to do the same technique. I'm going to use a brush, and I'm probably going to go let's go 40% on that. And then I'm going to hold the Alt key down, Option on a Mac, and I'm going to sample this color right here. Something about in between there. And again, make sure the drop-down menu here is set to, on that layer, to color, not normal mode. And again, I'm not going to zoom in and do this real accurate. It's just to show you the concept. I would just paint in that color over the areas that are maybe a little bit too light, at least for my taste. And again, there's a before, after, if you focus on the left-hand side. Again, I'm going to select both layers right there. Control-E, Command-E is consolidating that down to a single layer. And now I'm going to do a quick adjustment. Control-J, Command-J on a Mac is duplicating that layer, and I'm going to change this to multiply blending mode. And I'm going to pull the opacity down and look at her skin tones, how beautiful that is. I love the color. And again, you're just sort of taking an educated guess as to how deep that color should be. Because again, you may not have a reference image and it's just taking an educated guess with AI. Now, my guess is that over time, because this is recorded and this will be for May of 2023, in the future, as we move forward, AI is going to get better. And so a lot of these things that we may have to clean up a bit might eventually slowly go away. And we'll find out that it's actually going to do a better job. So, but this is a different approach. Skin tone I wasn't happy with. Now I can control that. So there's the, again, before, after, before, after. Okay, so hopefully that answers a couple questions and that I received. And hopefully you guys learned something here today. Please do me a favor. If you learned something, please like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and also hit that notification bell. The next time I upload a new video, you'll get notified by YouTube. Okay, so with that out of the way, the ending is always the same, and that is please grab that camera, get out there and practice shooting, make mistakes. And you know what? Bring those images into Photoshop and start pushing yourself in Photoshop, experimenting and try different techniques that you're being taught here on this channel. If you have any questions regarding stuff, please send me an email. I've got a backlog of emails I'm trying to get caught up on. I'm trying to do my best because I'm still involved in teaching at a school, photography, as a part-time faculty member, and doing some guest speaking here in Michigan with some different small groups of photographers. Okay, with that out of the way, again, literally keep thinking out of the box, keep creative, and see you in the next video. Till then, see ya.